Everyone, and welcome back to another Pony&Wolf Productions video. My name is Visual Pony, and today we are reading the story Know Why the Nightingale Sings by MoscowNights. Okay, this could be a little bit of a dark story, I don't know. It has a mystery tag, and I don't think I've ever read a story that has a mystery tag, so that intrigued me. And as always, those people who actually enable me and Midnight to keep doing these stories are now on the screen, and guys, if you want to be on that list, then all you have to do is look in the description down below, and there are links, Patreon links, and one-time donation links, and there's our merch store, and don't forget you can also become a channel member here on YouTube, or give us a super thanks, and not to forget, yes, like, share, and subscribe, because that helps us a great deal as well. Wishes in the dark. Her hoofs treaded the ground silently, afraid to disturb the peace of the sleeping forest. She could soar over the endless expanse of wood, but something pulled Fluttershy toward the leafy cover that gave rise and took end. And she stepped through the maddening tangle of ancient roots. She never failed to look around anxiously, each time expecting to see a wild beast or someone much worse. But luck was on her side, each time saving the Pegasus from an imaginary enemy. The fresh night air cleared her tired mind from a long day, allowing the filly to wander among strange thoughts that inevitably boiled down to one obsessive desire: to know why the nightingale was singing. Its voice was familiar to her, but today it sounded different, taking on features she'd never seen before. It was like a stern counselor guiding her forward, promising to answer an unasked question that soon took precedence over all others. Moonlight streaming through the crowns fell on the yellow fur, and a light breeze fluttered the pink mane. The strange gleam of the night light was reflected in the wide-open turquoise eyes, which had already become accustomed to the semi-darkness. She knew she was not alone, but she couldn't find the reason for her own fear, until now.
Why? Why did you leave me when I needed you so much?
That's not a question I want to dignify with an answer. My mind is focused on far more important things. Accept this and live in peace.
I can't. I'm not supposed to live. But I'm breathing, eating, drinking, sleeping, loving and hating. Why? Tell me why.
Aren't you happy about that? Not everyone gets a chance like this.
It's unnatural. The others got it by birthright, but I wasn't born.
Yes, but how in essence is that different from being born? Except that there's no birth pains.
The golden lights showed up against the thicket, motionless but pointed in her direction. Without a sound or rustle, Fluttershy stumbled when she saw them appear, nearly losing her balance and falling face first into the mud. She managed to stay on her shaky legs, but she couldn't save herself from the shivering through her body. Clenching her teeth, she could not decide to take the next step, but the lights remained still. Swallowing a lump in her throat, she sighed heavily and continued on her way, trying not to notice the mysterious observers, before the winding path turned into a straight road without a single obstacle, devoid even of disappearing roots. The mare was confused by the sudden change, but didn't slow down. A night butterfly flew past her surprised snout, having never before seen such a bizarre coloration in living creatures. The pattern of its wings resembled ripples in the water, whose rings ran through each other, forming chains that diverged in 4 directions. It was as if a burden an insect was carrying them on its back, though flight could only be a benefit. What if it wanted to remain a caterpillar? What if its past life had satisfied it? but nothing lasts forever under the moon. These words were embodied in the monstrous outlines of the black walls and towers that emerged from the pall of a thick fog on the other side of the bridge over the abyss. It was only when she approached it that the mare finally stopped, staring at the ruins of the ancient castle. She had been here before.
Look at the greatness of this place. Isn't it beautiful?
Truly.
I've seen enough beauties and wonders, but as practice shows, they all have only one flaw.
What do you mean?
Without gardeners, the garden will wither away. Without bricklayers, the towers would collapse. And without a ruler, there will be no country. Too bad they don't last. Perhaps that is their happiness.
A lone shadow swept over her head, turning into a nightingale perched on the edge of the bridge. With a low creak it swayed over the cleft, boding no good to anyone who dared to step on it. The filly had no choice. Overcoming her growing anxiety, she walked the dilapidated planks. The nightingale soared upward, flying into the wide open gates, from which came an inviting song. The same song that had made her leave the comfort of her home. Without noticing the transition, Fluttershy climbed the cracked stone steps, following the bird whose voice echoed off the time-damaged walls. At the end of the scarlet carpet path, a throne that had not lost its majesty awaited her. At the foot of it, an ancient silver crown lay in the dim light. The Pegasus touched it, losing her usual caution, and felt a wave of coldness pass over her body. Her hoofs ceased to obey their mistress, lifting and directing the crown over her mane. A bright flash blinded her. When the vision returned to her eyes, the world was transformed. The formerly grey tones of night became the bright colors of day. The decrepitude disappeared, giving way to the monumental grandeur of the palace, which was once again filled with joyful voices. The mare turned around. Dozens of woodland creatures stared at her with longing and awe, as if the servants greeted their queen. An entourage worthy of her like no other. They knew her purpose better than she did. Soon it was no longer a secret for the filly, though one question still haunted her mind. Why the nightingale sings?
Because he's free,
Fluttershy whispered. The crown flew down, shattering to pieces with a deafening clang. The image of the past faded, giving way to the deafening howl of the present. The mare sprang from her seat, hurtling through the shaking walls. A rumble replaced the enchanting song, but it faded as the crumbling castle turned to dust. She was left in absolute silence, alone with the distant and indifferent moon. But the anxiety and fear were gone, and so was her destiny, one that never existed.
This time, I make the comments because Luna is a big old meanie. I'll get my revenge when I have taken over the world. And that is where I need your help. Go ahead. Like and subscribe. Also share this video with your friends and family. And don't forget to check out my Humans Patreon and merch store. Building an evil empire is expensive. To be completely honest with you guys, this story is kind of awesome. Fluttershy seeing a future that never was is an interesting premise and I like it. She would be the overlord of woodland creatures, as I will one day be the overlord of all of you humans. Perfect. Now let me be, I have your demise to plan. Muhahahahahahahaha.